Yeah, we kind of like to think the more life experience we have, the better we're going to be in a disaster, but it's not necessarily the case. I know there's a story of a child essentially saving lots of people during a tsunami in Thailand because the kid was like, I think I saw on TV that when that happens, you're supposed to get to high ground and not like go down and collect shells off the beach or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, kids can be incredible messengers for this kind of stuff. This is why firefighters are always showing up at schools, right? And doing like stop, drop, roll and all these trainings because kids get to get into this if you do it the right way, and they'll remember it and they'll become evangelical about it. And so Tilly Smith is who you're talking about, who was on the beach in Thailand on vacation with her parents, and she saw the indicators, the warning signs, the natural warning signs of a looming tsunami, which most people in most places don't know. But she knew them because she learned them in her geography class. I think she was 12. She had just learned them in school. And so she saw that the ocean receded, got very shallow and weird. Fish were flopping around on the sand, and people were all going towards the water, staring at this, remarking on this. I have, photos of people gathering on the beach, staring at the water. And she said to her parents, I think there's going to be a tsunami. And so they did what most parents, would do, which is to be like, it's fine. And so, but she, to her credit, she's not as, kids aren't as worried about being embarrassed, right? Until they get a little older, I guess. But like, she wasn't worried about that. And so she really insisted. She sat down on the beach. She said, I'm not going anywhere. We need, there's going to be a tsunami. And so her dad took her back to the hotel and said, I'm a little embarrassed, but my daughter thinks there might be a tsunami coming. What do you guys think? And there happened to be another guy walking by, and he said, there was an earthquake earlier today, so it's not impossible. And they cleared that beach, and they saved many people's lives as a result of that little girl's warning.
That's pretty impressive. And it's also amazing that it took that much, well, I guess it's a kid saying something, right? So zero authority.
Because kids say so much, you know what I mean? And they don't always get the respect that they deserve.
You mentioned in the book, and I thought this was interesting, certain disasters are more dangerous for men than for women. What is that all about? And which ones?
Yeah. Do you want to guess? Should we play a trivia game?
I really feel like I have absolutely no idea. I mean, what could be more dangerous for men than women? The only thing I can think of is like a shipwreck, and it's like women and children first, and guys are just like, yeah, we're never getting off this damn thing. We're done.
Right. So some of it will be kind of unsurprising, but some of it is surprising. So men are more likely to be killed by lightning, hurricanes, and fires. Nearly twice as many men as women die in fires, according to the U.S. Fire Administration. So why is that? Well, there's a bunch of reasons. Typically, you see more men doing more dangerous jobs that are at risk of fire, right? So, but it's also because men take more risks overall. This is, a generalization, but on average, men are more likely to walk towards smoke and drive through floods. So a lot of people, how they die in disasters is driving through standing water. This is like, if people remember nothing else from this conversation, please know this, that driving through standing water is very, very dangerous. You can't tell how deep it is. Whereas on average, not always, women tend to be more cautious. So they're earlier to evacuate. They're less likely to drive through standing water. They're less likely to stay outside when there's lightning. And this in some ways is a luxury, right? Like if you don't think you're going to be called weak and made fun of for going inside in the lightning storm, it's a lot easier to go inside, or if it's not your job to be outside, in a lightning storm. So it's complicated, right?
Interesting. So the answer to the questions, which disasters are more dangerous for men than for women, is all of them, especially if you have a big ego and you don't want to look like a wimp. Got it.
Especially put it more charitably, if you're living in a culture that doesn't give men a lot of like leeway for how to be. But yes, Jordan, that is right.
I think we're hitting on the reason I didn't run away from this quote unquote gunshots at LAX. I'm like, I don't want to look like a wimp if this isn't a gunshot. I don't think that's why, because everybody ran. Yeah. But there was probably a little bit of that, like, unless I'm really sure this is a gunshot, I'm not going to run.
Right. You don't want to be that person.
I don't want to be that guy, along with all the other thousands of that guys who are now on the tarmac while I'm in the terminal with a potential terrorist.
Right. Yeah. But I bet in a different situation on a different day, you would react differently. So, we've seen that, right, from your story. So, it depends on your mood, right? Are you hungry? Are you annoyed? There's a bunch of things but we do know that there are some cases where the where it's better to be a man than a woman in a disaster. So here's a ridiculous example, but it does matter, which is on 9/11, women were almost twice as likely to get injured while evacuating. And that was because of their shoes, right? So they were wearing shoes that were uncomfortable, and you do a lot of walking to evacuate a skyscraper. And so they would take off their shoes, and then people, they would step on glass, and people would trip on their shoes and different things. So that's one thing. And another thing is, in countries where women are not um, typically encouraged or allowed to learn how to swim, which was a lot of countries that were hit by the tsunami, they had wildly worse death rates, women and girls. So there's a lot of ways that the culture and biology can inform this, but not always the ways that we expect.